So those threads should be happy because neither one is crossing the other. Notice I've again pulled the thread underneath the presser foot and I've got it going to the back. Now I'm going to thread the needles. The reason you want to thread the needles after the loopers is because during that process of moving the lower looper right to left to get access to it, the needles were going down, and they would, if they're threaded already, they are going to try to interact with those threads and start weaving the stitch, and you don't want that to happen until all the threads are in the correct position. The needles are generally easy to thread. Sometimes you will have the threads going through the same guides, like here. In this case, on this serger, both the needle threads are going through this little guide there. In other cases, there may be a separate path for the right and left needle. Some stitches, like a 3-thread, you won't use both needles, you only use one. This machine has a different thread guide for the right needle up here, although they're the same here, and the right needle has this thread guide, whereas the left doesn't, so they're just all a little different. The won't worry about that. So now I'm going to thread the needles, so I want the needles up high. It usually helps me to put the foot down. It just gives me a little more room to maneuver. You can even take the presser foot off if it's easier for you. Just really, it's going to vary depending on the machine. So that's what I like to do, is just put the foot down. I get a little more room to maneuver that way. Again, I'm going to use the tweezers. You don't have to, just like threading any needle, it helps to have a clean cut edge. Once I get those threaded, then I'm going to put the foot back up so that I can get these threads all the way to the back. Alright, so now I have it threaded. I'm going to check and make sure that all my paths are good. And I'm going to also make sure that it's not caught up on in this looper. Oh, I see, I missed a guide. Right after I said that there's usually a guide here at the end, and that's one that's really common and easy to miss. Either I didn't get that thing and I missed it, or else maybe I don't know, maybe it popped out of there. And this one, sometimes it's nice to have 2 pair of tweezers. This one, especially since now I have to you can't see this, but there's a little guide in here right at the base of that looper, and I've got to slot it in there without trying to unthread the rest. There it goes. So it helped to have both, and I just grabbed the thread with both ends here, like pretend I was like that, and then I just slotted it in there. Wow, can't believe I missed that guide, or something happened there. But hey, that's a good lesson. That's why you check the path. It's much easier to check the path before you rev it up than to have the machine go and start tangling weird and cause a problem. So, and then have to rethread the whole thing. So yeah, checking this thread path is a good call. All right, that looks good. The other thing is you want to make sure your thread is freely flowing off the spools, or cones, I guess I should say. And then I like to do a pull test. I'm just pulling the threads to make sure everything's coming out freely. And if not, don't force it. Again, these loopers are fragile. You do not want to bend or pull those out of position. So if it doesn't come freely, then I would start separating out these threads and figuring out which one isn't pulling freely and why. I tend to crank the tensions down low. I know these are set correctly, so I'm just going to leave them. But if you don't know if your tensions are going to need to be reset anyway, I would just turn it down low, to crank it down to a smaller number, loosen it, in other words. So it's just more likely to weave and not cause a problem, and less likely to come unthreaded. So better to start with looser tension than tighter, unless, like I say, the tension's right. So then the other thing I'm going to do before I sew is hand wheel. I always turn the hand wheel a couple turns, maybe with the foot down to even be better. Now I can see that it's starting to weave a stitch on the stitch finger. And I can also tell that no metal is hitting. Anytime you set up a machine, maybe you mess with the presser foot, change the needles, rethreaded, it's a good idea just to turn the hand wheel a couple times and make sure nothing's hitting, because there's a lot of moving metal parts and you don't want something to hit and get out of alignment and have an expensive repair bill. So I always hand wheel like that, and then again, it also helps me to know that the serger is forming a chain and ready to go. I'd also check my settings, my stitch length differential, make sure everything's set correctly before I hit the pedal and go. So that's it, threading your serger. It does take practice, having good tools, good light, and good manual, knowing the thread paths, and from there, just practicing, it does get easier. You get muscle memory, and before you know it, it'll be a breeze to thread your serger. If you do have one thread come unthreaded and you need to rethread it, you don't have to start all over and redo every thread in that order. While some sergers are pickier about the threads being crossed, you can simply unthread and pull these threads. I could cut these and pull these back out of the way so it wasn't weaving if I was concerned about that. So it is fine. The serger really doesn't know what order it's threaded in, so it is fine to just rethread one thread without unthreading the whole machine.